Well, hello there. How is everyone? You amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. And it's Thursday. It's Thursday. We got over the midweek hump. We had a live last night as well. Thank you to those of you who joined me. 3 videos yesterday. And there will be 2 videos today. This one, and I'm doing a live later, which is the last live of the week until Sunday, which is a new week, because Sunday's the first day of the week, apparently. But anyway, going to get straight into the meat and potatoes this morning as we talk about this is not about the Idaho 4 case directly, but it is indirectly, because what we're trying to do here is show people, the people who are absolutely 100% convinced that Bryan Kohberger is the guy who did it, and there's absolutely no possible way that this would be a frame job or anything like that. I want to bring your attention to a case, and let me just do some housekeeping, couple of things, couple of pointers. First of all, I'd like to thank the channel Get a Clue, because this is the channel where I obtained the details of this information on. Now, myself and Get a Clue, we don't generally get along. He hasn't got a massive, great, good opinion of me, and that's cool. That's cool. I understand that not everyone's going to like Harsh. I don't understand, because I'm an amazing person and everyone should love me. I kid. But look, I think Get a Clue doesn't really get me, which is quite funny. It's quite a conundrum, isn't it, that someone called Get a Clue can't seem to get a clue when it comes to me, for instance. Now, he seemed to say in his last video that I was a supporter of Steve Gonsalves. Let me just put this out there straight away to clarify this. I 100%, in terms of the Gonsalves family, I have empathy towards their loss. And I state categorically that due to their loss, which I believe is the absolute worst loss that anyone can go through, anyone. And there is no written book as to how you can and should handle that situation. And I wouldn't wish that situation on anyone. So I have empathy for that. But what I don't have empathy for is the way in which they have handled certain things. The things that they have said, regarding Bryan Kohberger, and I get it, because I get what he's been accused of, and I guess that I give them the benefit of the doubt that when you're thrust into this situation, it can hugely affect the way that you perceive what is around you. And I've never been there, so I haven't walked in their shoes. I can't comment about how they're dealing with things, and I can only imagine how I would be like in that position, and I categorically state that I could potentially be worse. But I do not stand by things that they have said. I do not stand by things that they have done. I just have to step back and understand that they are in extreme circumstances that could potentially be affecting their ability to function how some of us would believe a decent person would. And that's all I'll say on it. That's as simple as that. If you don't like it, then I can't help that. But anyway, I digress. Bryan Kohberger, there's a situation, there's a case that is very, very similar to Bryan Kohberger, and I'm going to set you some homework to do. We're going to look at it, and it's this case here, okay? And this is 19-year-old student accused of killing Jackson State student, and he's released after new evidence. And this is Joshua Brown, okay? Joshua Brown, who was arrested on October 19th for the death of Jackson State student Jalen Burns. But new evidence might show that Brown could not have committed the crime. Photo C courtesy of the Hinds County Sheriff's Office. The man accused of killing a Jackson State University student has been released from jail after evidence surfaced of him possibly being nearly 100 miles away from the scene at the time of the shooting. Now, what happened here? There was evidence all the way along. There was always evidence. Let me just scrap this a second. Let me just change this, because I can bring this up a little bit better and ditch that. So, yeah, there was always evidence. What it was law enforcement weren't interested in looking at it. We use this app, and it's called Life 360, and you can scan where people are. You know, we've got it on the kids so we can keep the kids safe. And there was information on that app that showed him away from where this crime happened at the time it happened. But law enforcement weren't fucking interested in listening to it, okay? But anyway, Joshua Brown was freed from the Raymond Detention Centre on Friday evening as the charges pressed against him is unknown at this time. Brown, a football player at Jones County Community College, was originally arrested on October 19th and charged with the killing of Jackson State student Jalen Burns. In the aftermath of Brown's arrest, WLBT-TV attained footage of him being over 90 miles south of the capital city about a half hour after the shooting was reported to have taken place, leading some to question if the 19-year-old could have been involved. According to the video footage and witness testimonials, Brown was seen in the drive-thru of the Krispy Kreme in Hattiesburg around 10 p.m. on October 17th, when the shooting was first reported by local media around 9:30. The restaurant is about an hour-and-a-half drive from Jackson State's campus. Additional video footage revealed by the TV station showed Brown shopping at a Texaco gas station in Columbia at 7:30 p.m. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. How is this similar to the Bryan Kohberger situation? I'll get to it, don't worry. Before heading to a nearby grocery store. Cameras on the campus of Jones County Junior College later captured Brown walking on the Ellisville campus with grocery bags in hand at around 10:30 p.m. That all ties all this in, right? Football coaches at the community college have also come out arguing for Jones' innocence. Jones is a sophomore defensive back for the Panthers. Josh Brown is a sophomore in our program here. This is his third semester. He's set to graduate in December, and he has a 3.6 GPA, 3.06. Josh has never been an issue in the field or off the field. Head coach Steve Buckley told WLBT, I know he was walking with two of our football players. He actually had gone to Walmart that afternoon in Columbia, and they helped him unload his groceries for his dorm room that night. Brown was also accused of driving his black Mustang to Jackson to commit the crime, a vehicle that Buckley said Brown could not have used since it had been totaled several weeks before. For the status of Jamison Kelly Jr., a suspect accused of accessory after the fact, it is unclear if his charges will stick after the newfound evidence in favour of Brown. So, in a nutshell, right, so what happens in this, and if you go and look at this more in depth. So this guy's accused of this crime. The difference between his crime and the Idaho 4 case is, yes, there's evidence, okay? There's evidence that can support it. But he got put away for it. He got locked up and charged with the crime with this information out there. And it talks about the fact that law enforcement weren't interested in it. They got their man, and that was it. The difference is this guy then had support. He had people who would fight his corner and say, hold on, this is not right. And it goes on through reporting to talk about the preliminary hearing, how the preliminary hearings are scrapped. And we know Bryan Kohberger's preliminary hearing was scrapped. And the issue we have here in the Bryan Kohberger situation is we are a year and a bit down the track, and Ann Taylor seemingly still doesn't know how they come to get hold of Bryan Kohberger as the guy who did this crime. Now, we're led to believe that this was via DNA, the DNA situation, acquiring this DNA, going through the process. But if you go back to the fact that it would appear that they were on to Bryan Kohberger as soon as kind of 3 weeks after this happened, that just so happened to coincide with Scott Green's book starting the wheels in motion, by the way. So all these things in the background happening around the same time. Yeah, you have a situation where the preliminary hearing is scrapped because that would have forced the prosecution's hand. They would have had to have divulged at that stage how they got to Ann's client, how Bryan Kohberger is here today, and they couldn't do it. They still can't do it, and all they've done is buried the case in amongst this 51 terabytes of fucking information that is, they know is just going to be something that Ann Taylor could be digging through for a long, long time, because she's looking for what would have had to have been divulged at the preliminary hearing. Would have had to have been. But because they overstepped that and gone into grand jury indictment, they no longer need to show. They no longer need to show their hand, and they can just do what they're doing. But this guy here, if it hadn't have been for the support of the locals, if it hadn't have been for the evidence that had been ignored and they were forced not to fucking ignore it, he would have been staying in prison and charged for murder. And not only that, but another person would have been inside with him as an accessory. And this guy didn't do it. He didn't do it, but he was charged with it with evidence. But the difference is he had support. Now, Bryan Kohberger, why Bryan Kohberger? And this is a question that Get a Clue addresses. And I've always thought exactly the same thing. Bryan Kohberger was an outsider. It was always important to detach Bryan from not only the university, but from the entire place. They knew Bryan Kohberger would have nothing. He had no money. He's got no money. He's got a public defender. So that's fucking strike one. Strike two, he's not connected to the university, so there is nothing to bring their name into disrepute. Fucking handy. And he's not even part of Moscow. Strike three, so he's got no local support whatsoever. Nothing. And that is why it's so important to retain this case in Laytar County, because they know nobody is going to give a flying fuck what happens to this guy. This is just about getting a result and moving the fuck along. And that's it. I'm done. Go and check out Get a Clue. He's a knob at times, but his fucking content's good. And I'll catch you all in the next one.